Hello and welcome to Insights and Perspectives. I'm Bob Larrabee, Director of AIM International, and your host for this segment titled Capture, Choosing the Right Tools. When we talk about capture, when we talk about choosing the right tools, first we need to understand the requirements. So requirements come in different forms. There's business requirements, and the business requirement is basically what does the organization need? What are the requirements of the organization to be able to accomplish their business goals? In relation to capture, what do they need to be effective, efficient, and consistent in capturing their information? Then there's functional requirements. Functional requirements being the tools. What type of tools would we require? Do we need automated indexing, for example? Dual-sided capture capabilities. So the functional aspect. And then finally the human element, training. What type of training requirements will be required or will be put in place? So what are the needs of training for the users, for the systems administrators, and for those who are doing document prep? In order to understand the requirements, we also have to look at things like volume. Daily volume in particular plays a heavy role. So how many pages per day are we looking to capture? Is it hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands, millions? Depending on the type of organization, what type of volume are we dealing with on a daily basis? And then do we have peak periods in that daytime? So in other words, is all the volume taking place, or the heaviest volume taking place in the early morning when people first come in, or is it light in the morning and it gets heavier as we transition to midday and maybe it falls off toward the end of the day? When we talk about peak periods too, don't just look at daily volumes. Look at weekly volumes and monthly volumes also. Because you may find that certain days of the week or certain weeks of the month, the volume could be much heavier than everything else when you look at it overall. So the idea of daily volume, yes, very essential, but look at weekly and monthly volumes too. And when we talk about volumes, look at locations. If you have multiple locations, don't just assume that every location is the same. Look at each one individually. How many pages per day are you capturing in these various locations, and what are their peak periods on a daily, weekly, and a monthly basis? So how many pages per day, what are the peak periods, what are the locations, and what are they dealing with? And then document types. What types of documents? Are you dealing with standard size documents or legal documents? Are you dealing with large format? Perhaps you're an engineering firm and you have drawings that run from anywhere from A size to R size. They could be on vellum, or they could also be in paper form. And so, what size documents are we dealing with? Are you dealing with postcard size documents, or even checks? Maybe you're doing remittance processing. And the documents that you do have, is it single-sided or dual-sided documents? Perhaps you've got some that are single-sided, but maybe there are contracts. Maybe there are things that are dual-sided. So that's going to play a role in the requirements and the type of functions you need. What is the condition of this information? Are your documents fairly new, maybe 5 years or less, or do they go back to the 20s or even further, maybe to the 1800s? And depending on the type of document, you might be dealing with photos. Perhaps you're dealing with tin-type photos that came out in the 1800s. And tin-type photo is a metallic photo. Some of these that are around might have corrosion on them. There might be oxidation that makes it difficult to extract or discern the information that's within them. So is it new or aged information that you're dealing with? Is it paper or other? If it's not paper, but it's like paper, could be onion skin. Onion skin was very popular in the early 1900s as information. Is it an original, or is it a carbon copy? And back then, carbon copy, basically you put pages with carbon paper in between, and you might be dealing with the third layer down where it's tough to read or tough to discern what there is. And are these documents bound, or are they separate pages? Maybe it's a book or book style, and so now you have to get a specialty type scanner to deal with that. Or are they all separate pages? Maybe you're dealing with 3-ring binders and you can remove the paper from the binders. So what is the condition of the paper or the information that you're dealing with? Other considerations, color. Are you dealing straight black and white, or are you dealing with color graphics and color photos, maybe a blended type of document? Do you have redaction? Redaction being an area that was blacked out. Maybe it's a social security number, for example, and people aren't supposed to see that. So The traditional form of redaction was to use a black marker, a black permanent marker, and black out that area so nobody could see what was under it. And then, of course, there's highlighting, the use of yellow or green or pink or blue highlighters. That's going to make a difference too, because the highlighting may actually hide or discolor some of the underlying text, so it makes it difficult to read. So other considerations, color redaction and highlighting. And then the scope of your project, the scope of your capture program. Are you looking at centralized capture, bringing everything into a single location and doing all the document prep, capture, and index there? Or are you looking at distributed capture, where in your remote locations you're going to have them handle all of those aspects? They will prep, they will scan, they will do the indexing. And what about backlog? You've got these file rooms full of paper-based information. What about those? What are you going to do with that? Are you looking to compile it all in one, or are you looking to maybe take a day-forward approach where everything from today goes into the new system, anything that you pull from the file cabinets gets captured, brought into the new repositories after it's digitized, and perhaps you can legally destroy that paper and get rid of it. And then, of course, the indexing aspect. What type of metadata will you be using to store this information? Metadata helps us not only store and manage it, but also to find it. So do you have control vocabularies? What's your metadata strategy in relation to capture? Is the indexing going to be done manually? You're going to have people type that information in, or are you going to try to automate that, maybe using recognition technologies like barcodes or OCR and ICR to do character recognition and data extraction? And then there's the human factor. We can't leave the people out of this equation. Do you have permanent employees that are going to be doing document preparation and scanning and capture and indexing? Or are you going to use part-time folks to maybe come in and do the document prep? Or maybe they do a combination of document prep and capture, the scanning aspect, and your permanent employees do the indexing. No matter what, you're going to have to train these folks. And so the idea of training, what type of training? Well, document preparation, removal of staples, removal of paper clips, identifying things like Post-it notes and the value of what's on that Post-it note. Is that information on that Post-it note of value that you need to keep, or is it something that can be thrown away? And so the human factor plays a big role in this, making those determinations. You've got to have training for them. So in summary, capture is not as simple as it appears. It's not just plug in a scanner and go off and run. It's assessing the business needs, assessing the organizational needs, the business requirements, assessing the functionality that you're going to require. And then you plan for that. You take all that information that you've gathered, you analyze, you create a plan, you create a strategy, you implement that, bring it out there, install the software, install the hardware, get the training done. And once you're finished, go back and refine it. Continuous improvement, an essential element of any ECM environment. So assess, plan, implement, and refine. Capture. Choosing the right tools, making the right approach, making the right steps. I thank you for taking time to spend with me today to talk about capture. If you'd like more information about capture training, or maybe training in ECM or BPM, visit us at www.aim.org/training. If you'd like to talk about private classes or maybe discuss some of the options that are available to you, shoot an email to training@aim.org and someone will get back to you and be more than happy to talk with you. If you'd like to contact me directly, it's blarrivee@aim.org, or you can follow me on Twitter @BobLarrivee. So I thank you for taking time with me. I look forward to seeing you again in a future segment of Insights and Perspectives.